make it our business. A climate podcast that's about innovators, change makers, and entrepreneurs who are taking actions, creating solutions, and inspiring many. This podcast is supported by US Department of State, created by BBC Media Action, India.
Alright, welcome to Cool It Down. Let's make it our business. In this episode, we delve into the heart of India, where the clash between tourism and environmental conservation is becoming increasingly urgent. To shed more light on the intricate relationship between tourism and climate change in India, we have a very special guest with us today, Dr. Jayashree Venkatesan, who is an esteemed ecologist. Dr. Jayashree, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. It's a privilege to be here.
Dr. Jayashree, I'll start with the very first thing that comes to our mind. Can you tell us a bit about your work on conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity, especially wetlands?
This is a very difficult question to answer because I'll have to summarize 30 years of my work in less than 1 minute. Essentially, I'm somebody who believes that science needs to be taken to people, and all decisions that we take need to be based both on science and on passion. So that's the kind of work I do. I work with communities. I work with people in remote areas. In terms of natural habitats, I work on deciduous forests and wetlands.
And what is behind all this? I mean, how have you kept yourself motivated and passionate about the work that you've been currently doing and inspiring so many other people around you?
No, it's largely self-motivation. See, I belong to a generation where women had to prove themselves a bit more than the conventional kind of a setup demands. If you're a student, if the boys get 90%, you're expected to get 95%. That was the kind of, it was not very stated in the sense, it was not written down anywhere as an almanac. There was this constant pressure on us to excel, to keep ourselves charged up. And that, I guess that stayed on with me, even as I pursued my career. It's largely an I question. I want to do well. I want to do something worthwhile. So that's what keeps me going. There's nothing external about it.
Right. So with nearly 3 decades of experience in conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity and ecological restoration, have you seen people's attitudes shift in this context?
Phenomenally. In fact, when we started out, people of my age started out in this field, there was a lot of, mockery, disdain, people being very skeptical, laughing at us, saying, you're wasting your time, why don't you find something more useful to do? But what I find now is a phenomenal change, especially the youngsters. I'm terribly enthused when I see these young children doing their bit, whatever little they learn. There's a lot of enthusiasm. There's also a lot of information that's shared, information that's present, information that's shared, information that's collated. A lot of individual and group initiative, a lot of community initiative. Overall, there is a lot of charged, positive kind of an atmosphere, which is something that I really enjoy, I really admire. Hats off. I'm very convinced that the future is in safe hands.
Lovely, Dr. Jayashree. I really want to ask you this, that where do you think the sudden interest in actually understanding climate change, understanding the whole relationship between, let's say, tourism and climate change has come about in the recent times? What do you think is the major reason?
I would say, this is based on my research, I would say the one reason that's actually triggered a lot of interest in climate change is the kind of uncertainty that we face in our lives. We're not sure about anything, starting from the simplest of how hot will the day be to today, to when will the monsoon hit us. Nothing is known, nothing is consistent, nothing is certain. This uncertainty is what has actually led to this great interest in climate change and also the urge to do something at your own level, at your own scale. Uncertainty is the key word.
That's interesting. Uncertainty is the key word. Dr. Jayashree, what are the main ways in which tourism contributes to climate change particularly?
Yeah, tourism very often is the bad boy, or that's how it's showcased, as a bad boy of anything that happens. I see that as a golden opportunity because people tend, when you are a tourist, you go to places that are new to you, you see their cultures. That's one aspect of it. You also get to share a lot. That is what is important. Tourism brings about sharing. Especially these days when you have these ecotourism packages, where you go and stay as a guest, house guest, interact with the community, you share a lot. In fact, we some time ago did a study in Kerala, high altitude areas of Kerala. where the means by which they cope with the diseases, especially contagious diseases, was a big lesson for us. Even trivial things or seemingly trivial things, you get to know. Second thing, you also see how unimportant you are in the whole scheme of things. It may sound abstract when I say that. When you actually go to these wilderness areas, it's a kind of a humbling experience happens. You realize you are insignificant. When I say you, I mean human being is insignificant. So that's also a lesson that you get. Third and the most interesting thing is if there are good initiatives in certain cities, green cities world over, you tend to pick up new knowledge about it. For example, in Germany, in Freiburg, you see how even a small water channel can actually become a buffer against climate change. So these things you pick up. All these things would be the major takeaways for when you talk about tourism and climate change.
You mentioned a very interesting term in our conversation, Dr. Jayashree, ecotourism packages. What exactly are ecotourism packages?
So normally ecotourism is seen as or understood as tourism to green areas, which is not correct. Tourism where you actually go and become part of the local landscape, their culture, their homes, and when you get to stay there and experience it, a kind of an experiential kind of a thing. In nature areas, natural areas, that is called ecotourism. In fact, in India, Kerala has pioneered it in a big way. Now other states are also catching up. In fact, today there was a news item saying that Telangana is very keen on doing it in one of the hill ranges. So Himalayas, of course, very well known ecotourism district. Essentially, it should be something that merges, blends with the local culture and the local landscape. It cannot be an add-on. That is what ecotourism is all about.
What do you think are some of the most pressing environmental challenges faced by Indian tourist destinations due to increased footfall?
One thing, the infrastructure demand. See, that is something where a lot of awareness needs to be built up. Very often I find that when the tourists, if they're ill-informed or if they're not sensitive to what they're actually supposedly practicing, the kind of demands they place on the system is very unreasonable. This you see in wilderness areas. For example, as simple as, why don't we get an AC room, air-conditioned room? Why can't we get gourmet food? Why there are no varieties of cheese being served? So such things adds pressure to the local landscape, the local entrepreneur and all that. And they start yielding to the unreasonable behavior. That's when all the problems come in. Likewise, a lack of respect for local rules. In wilderness areas, once again, after 6 you're not supposed to go. But people are saying, we want to go. We want to see how the place looks in the evening. So essentially, it's human behavior that's the biggest challenge, whether it be from the tourism side or tourist side or from the people who are actually entrepreneurs in that.
There are so many types of tourist destinations for us. Are there particular ecosystems or regions in India that are more vulnerable to the effects of tourism and climate change?
Yes, certainly. Certainly, all those regions which are vulnerable to climate change, naturally predisposed to climate change impact, like high altitude areas and coastal areas, are naturally more vulnerable to tourism pressure. Very evident, very apparent in coastal areas, beaches, mangrove areas, the kind of impact it leaves is sometimes very disastrous.
Now, I'm very curious to know this. There are so many successful ecotourism initiatives in India. Which one do you think has effectively minimized environmental damage?
Yeah, you see that in Western Ghats actually, essentially Kerala and Karnataka. In Kerala, in the Periyar Tiger Foundation, they've been able to very phenomenally bring about a kind of a system where people behave responsibly. The system adapts itself very well, bare minimum infrastructure, very nice experiences given to the tourists. Overall, it's a good thing, and most importantly, the benefits of the tourism goes to the local communities. It's a very well organized, streamlined system. The same thing we saw in Kali Tiger Reserve, North Karnataka. These are the only two examples where I saw ecotourism being practiced the way it is. Almost nil impact. At the same time, a lot of benefits accruing to the system, to the landscape, and to the people.
Dr. Jayashree, how can travelers make their trips more sustainable and reduce their environmental footprint while visiting India?
A very nice question, actually, very apt question. There are many resources these days available as to how to be very responsible in a generic way. There are also websites that guide you about specific locations. For example, if you're visiting a tiger reserve, what are the things you should do, what you shouldn't. Ideally, you start preparing with that. And then probably contact the local community. There are enough people now available in the local community who will guide you as to what is done. The third and the most important thing is follow the rules. No point in just reading the rules or reading the regulations. Follow the rules and respect the nature. Once you realize nature is supreme and you're insignificant, everything else is taken care of, whether it be tourism or conservation or restoration.
And this bit especially for all the budding entrepreneurs out there. Dr. Jayashree, do you see entrepreneurial solution that can help in creating and maintaining biodiversity?
Yes, certainly. In fact, most of these ecotourism packages that are privately run are run by young people who've given up very lucrative jobs and they come back to India, settle down here, bought a piece of land, developed it. Amazing kind of a thing. And I'm sure it's bound to grow because we've not yet heard an instance where they've been irresponsible, they've messed up things, and that's not happening. That's a very big positive, very big positive. Lot of scope for entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jayashree, for your time and for enlightening us with a whole lot of things, and mostly for keeping the optimism so high. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
We just heard from Dr. Jayashree how we can make our trips more sustainable. Her ideas are simple, easy to follow, and can easily become a habit. But there is someone who you perhaps already know who can tell us about a few more things that she's already doing. Welcome Vani Murthy, or as some would call her, Worm Rani. I am really curious about your popular name, which is Worm Rani, which basically means the queen of worms.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. How did you get that? When did you get it?
Well, I've been on social media since 2007, but when the Instagram started, I couldn't find a name for as Vani Murthy. So my friend said, since you talk so much about worms, you carry them everywhere you go, trying to get people to understand, why is it so important to keep life under the soil alive? And worms are a big part of that. So she said Worm Rani would be an apt title. So that's how it came.
And you were totally cool with it. You were like, okay, my second name could be Worm Rani.
Yeah. I didn't think it's very different from who I am. So
that's adorable, actually.
I so much love the worms. So
not only are you an inspiration for waste management, but you're a champion of sustainable lifestyle habits. When it's about traveling, what do you do?
Well, I can talk about a travel, just outside, just leaving my house itself is a travel for me, So I'm always paranoid about accepting anything that is single use, that is resources has been used to making it, then you use it once and then you discard it. That's something that just doesn't sit well with me. And since I have been in the space of waste management for a long time, I understood the problems of this fast living where, our culture has changed. We are no more, it's all use and throw kind of culture. So I equip myself, even if I have to go to a doctor's appointment or go and hang out with friends or a meeting or a wedding. My bag is always things that I equip with where I can refuse any single-use disposables. So that has been a practice for a very long time now. And it's a kit that is always there in my bag. Even with the smallest bag, I would have a water bottle so that I can say no to a packaged bottle. Mm-hmm. I can refill it wherever I go. So going out of the outstation, outside Bangalore, also the same kit travels with me, probably with something more and extra. So I always tell people, if you can put your key, your sunglasses, your mobile phone, you can't go out without a mobile phone. It's as important for me to put these things, few things into my bag.
And now I'm curious to know, what does that kit have? Because if I, peek into your bag, that shouldn't happen. Peeking into a lady's bag is not...
I'll be most happy to show people my bag.
But what does that kit have?
So there will be a bottle water, a steel bottle with water. And I'll have a bag, a cloth bag, which is like pushed. It's a small bag. When you open it, becomes a large bag. So I can buy my groceries. Or if I have to buy vegetables or fruits, it's always there in my bag. Then there are steel tumblers, a set of steel tumblers in a pouch. If I have to grab a coffee, tea or something like that, and they give paper cups or, they're giving some disposables I wouldn't accept. So I would always give even in the airports, I tell them, this is my glass, please, I want my coffee in this. So there will be a set of steel glasses, then a spoon and a straw, a steel spoon and steel straw in case I need to drink coconut water. Either I drink without the straw, or I always have a straw in case I can give it to a child who needs to sip instead of having the plastic straw. And of course, there will be cloth napkins, actually multiple cloth napkins, so that I can refuse a paper tissue.
Wow.
So these are some basic things that I always carry. And of course, a little box will always be there in case I need to, pick up something and bring it back. Like I'm hungry and I have a shop there, and I would put it so that another few hours that I have to travel, I can eat something. So I will not take it in a packaged box. So I will have my own little box where I can grab a sandwich or something and keep it there for further use, or to eat on the flight or something like that. Yeah.
And whenever you travel, what is that one thing that you consistently see that really upsets you, and actually, you would want to address people saying, as responsible tourists, please do not do this, or please do this?
Yeah, it's the paper cups that I really, because a lot of people think paper cups are made of paper. They are, eco-friendly, they are biodegradable, and it's okay to use paper cups. But unfortunately, it has a lining of thin polythene, which is like a multi-layer. So it's absolutely not friendly to the earth. The remains will be there for a long time. And this is what I see, that paper cups everywhere. You step out of your building, on the sides you'll see, the watchmen or whoever, the drivers, they would have drank the tea or coffee and they would have dropped it there. Anywhere and everywhere you see either bottled water, packaged water, or this paper cup. These are the two things that is strewn everywhere. The mountainsides, in forests, in beautiful forests, everywhere you see such garbage. So trash is something that people should be mindful of. They bring it back and dispose it responsibly. That should be the way to go. And I wish everybody gets that consciousness that this one planet, and we need to, we make sure that we don't drain her resources. So constantly, asking for things that are easily disposable is putting a strain on the resources. Plus, after you use, it's polluting. So it's a double whammy. And if people are more conscious about this, I think it'll be great for the future of the planet. For generations that are ahead of us.
Thank you for being such a beautiful daughter of Mother Earth, and thank you for influencing so many people so positively. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sayema. Thank you.
All right, so this episode is becoming extremely interesting. We're talking about the relationship between tourism and climate change. We've started thinking about it. There are many people who are already acting on it. And the intricate relationship just got really interesting because we are joined by Dr. V. Shubhalakshmi Reddy, an award-winning entomologist, educationist, entrepreneur, and a storyteller. Welcome, Shubha.
Thank you so much.
All right, Shubha, I can't wait to begin. I really want to know about your journey. How did this transition from an entomologist to becoming an entrepreneur happen?
Yes, it's a long journey, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. Basically, I was an educator. I'm an educator by profession, an entomologist by passion, and an entrepreneur by choice. So I was working in nature education, but I was pursuing my interest in moths as part of my master's as well as doctoral research work. So I was doing this 2-in-1 jobs over there. So the entomology side was purely for my degree purpose. It was not something to do with my profession. So I felt that there is certainly a gap between the NGO and a corporate, and they really need a facilitator who can understand the NGO language as well as the corporate language. And somewhere I felt that I can fit that bill. I can be that facilitator and I get in. So in 2014, when the law came in, and I felt that I should plunge into it because it was first time happening in India, and everyone was experimenting. Nobody had a reference book to follow. That's how it goes about. So I felt that if I want to work in this sphere, I should also be part of that experimentation phase. So somewhere in April, the law came in, April 2014, and I left my job somewhere in July. And that's how I started, because I felt it was something new, and I was pursuing this law for nearly 2 years. I was reading about it regularly on newspapers and understanding it, and I found it very fascinating, because I felt that this law is empowering NGOs with funds, provided you know how to get the funds. So the training which I had got from US in fundraising, proposal writing, it was very much something which I thought I can put it into use. So that's the reason I thought, let me leave my job. It's a well-paid and a very cushy job, I would say. I was an assistant, or rather deputy director of BNHS, and but I left it. I said, let me take this plunge, and that's how I got in.
But I would still ask Shobha that, at the time when you tried marrying your passion with your profession, was it difficult to merge your purpose with the entrepreneur's role?
So when I started, I didn't start an NGO. I said I'll start a company, because I said it's time that I start making money. So I was really looking forward, and I was not I had never ever thought that I'll become an entrepreneur. But somewhere back of my mind, probably it was acting, because when I was on the Hubert Humphrey fellowship, I actually took up a course on social entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And I did that course, and that gave me. So they did ask me that why you want to do this course. I said that someday I might become an entrepreneur. I had no idea actually. I just said that, and then I said, okay, here is it, and I didn't know that this is what entrepreneurship is all about. To be very honest about it. So yes, it was not easy. It was not at all easy. In fact, making money, or rather earning really decent and good money in the environment sector is not easy at all. It's very challenging, but what is required to break the deal is that one. I always tell that you have this left side brain and the right side brain. So your right side brain is all about the technical part of it. I know about entomology, I know about environment, I know about everything.
Right.
But when I went to the Hubert Humphrey program, that my coordinator said that why you want to learn again environment here? Why don't you learn management? So she asked me to take up the management courses. So I took up almost in a non-profit management course I did in Boston University. Of course, I audited the course, and that was developing with the left side brain. I know to write the technical things, but how to make money out of that technical thing is what the skill set I picked up from my program. So I saw that I'm having this both side of my mind developed. So I have to just put them into use.
This is commendable, because not only did you push your limit, you're a kind of person who would actually indulge in giving challenges to self. And I think that's the way to grow. Shobha, let me ask you about iNature Watch Foundation. Tell us about your organization.
I started a project, and that project name was iNature Watch. It's a mobile app. I created 3 mobile apps through that fund for students who can use the mobile app to identify local birds, local butterflies, local trees around the schools.
How do your projects like establishing butterfly and biodiversity parks contribute to biodiversity and ecotourism?
So one is that habitat creation is like supporting biodiversity directly. So when we do plantation, especially plantation that attracts birds, bees, butterflies, even bats, if you do specific plantation which attracts these animals, so you're actually creating a habitat for them. And when a habitat is created, automatically the diversity of that area increases because there's a habitat been created for them. So the idea is to boost the population. I call them as top pollinators, like 4 Ps, like the 4 Bs. The birds, bees, butterflies, and bats. So they all will get attracted if you do this specific plantation. So it increases, and we actually document how many species were there before we started our project, and how many are there when we leave the project. And in all our projects, we nearly found 100 and more than 100% increase. If it is 10, then it becomes 50, or it becomes even 100 has become. Because the habitat is created. That's how, nature is very resilient. So it is always like, you just give a small helping hand. and nature is like grabbing it. And so you give small area, you create something, and everybody starts using that. So that's how it helps the local biodiversity. So that's number one. When we create such kind of zones from ecotourism point of view, so they automatically become one of the places to see butterflies. Say, for example, butterfly parks are created. So people will specially come to see butterfly, to photograph butterfly, to learn about butterflies. So it is indeed. So all the zones that we created, like we have 30 plus zones we have created so far. So all these places have potential for a community engagement. So our projects also include one component where we bring in schools, colleges, local community to come and experience the place, to learn from this place. So the education, the nature education is automatically happening. And obviously, if it is like people are visiting, if it is a area where people can just come and if the ticketing is done, then it also supports ecotourism of that region. Like recently we developed biodiversity park for Kalyan Dombivli Municipal Corporation in Ambuli. So it is called Ambuli Biodiversity Park. Now, if the municipal corporation wants, they can certainly put a ticket to visit to this place, because we developed an entire infrastructure of the biodiversity park, which can provide nature education. Every sector of people can come and experience that place. So it helps tourism also, at the same time education as well as the biodiversity. So we plan it from all this point of view.
But Shubha, how do you ensure the delicate balance? Because we've read and we know that there is an excess of footfall at a certain place, it damages the nature. So while we need footfalls to kind of, push tourism, we're also maybe going towards degradation of nature in a way. So how do you address this paradox?
So to answer your question, that's where this sustainable development or sustainable tourism comes in. Because one is that unless you expose people to nature, you can't expect their support when you in conservation. So people need to be part and parcel of conservation. So in order to do that, you have to allow people to experience these places. But then it has to be moderated. It has to be controlled. Like you may be knowing that in national parks and wildlife sanctuaries where tigers are found. So when the tiger season is going on, like the breeding season is going on, the parks are closed. They don't allow the visitors to come during that time. So that's how it has to be structured. So similarly, in monsoon, all the new saplings starts growing. They all start germinating. So if people can only restrict to the pathway where the pathways are created, not just wander off everywhere, then we are actually having a control. So it is like, a midway of allowing people to experience a place at the same time not having the impact on environment. But unfortunately, this has been not practiced. Like if we take groups, so we don't take large groups. Many times I get a request that 500 children want to come. So I tell them, look, this area's carrying capacity is not so much that I can bring 500. I can take 100 children in one batch. You do one batch in the morning, in one batch in the afternoon. I take 200 in one day. That is how we control the impact on nature. So everybody can find a way of how, if they're taking trips, they're doing camps or whatever they're doing in nature, if they can actually control this. So when we do nature trails, we are very particular telling our participants not to trample anywhere other than the pathway. We just tell them, if you go other way, then snakes are there, scorpions are there, you be on the pathway. It is so that is the way of having, like, both parties are happy.
Right. So striking that balance and acting responsibly when you are a tourist out there is so important. Shubha, with tourism coming up in a big way, is there anything that you would want to see the businesses built around it do differently?
So, the way nature education is happening in our country is not evolving at all. It is still in that old phase of taking children in the forest and just doing nature trails, that's it, looking at butterflies, trees and coming back, and that's all. But I had gone on, in two instances I have been to US. earlier fellowship was a Fulbright fellowship. So during my Fulbright fellowship, I actually studied the nature education centers of United States and the property and the forest that they were managing. So their nature trails, how they make their nature trails very engaging. So there is an infrastructure that is created, there are signages, there are activity stations, how people are getting engaged. So everything is just built so that people learn more and more on their own. This is something is not happening in a big way in our country. If you go to national parks, particularly very good national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, yes, they have the boards and exhibits, but it's not that engaging. It's not really connecting people that much. So that is one area where we should be really looking, where we make our outdoors more engaging, so that people just not going to have fun, but they can have education also and appreciate it and respect it also. So that kind of infrastructure development is missing. For example, in United States, I'll be giving example of United States only because that's the place I've been. There is this national parks service which actually have demarcated nature trails throughout the country, and if you're going anywhere, you can very well pick up a brochure of nature trails in that area, and you just walk using that map. We don't have those things. Of course, today we don't need the maps. We can have mobile apps where trails have been mapped. Why we forgot to say? Because city trails are not mapped in our country. It is walking trails. So there are different kinds of trails that could be designed around our natural places or places of interest where people can go, learn, and engage. So it has to be like very, I would say, tourism has to be glamorized from the learning perspective, from the engagement perspective, so that people respect it. That's very important. Not that they just go litter, hangama macha ke aage. No, that's not the case we should. So how you make people serious taking these areas, like going these places and appreciating it, when you create this kind of reading material. So we created mobile apps for exploring a forest. So there are two mobile apps that we have created. This is also an idea that I got from US. It is called cell phone nature tours. So in US, it was a cell phone was used, but now things have advanced. So I created a mobile app. So through the mobile app, you can actually navigate the nature trails inside the Sanjay Gandhi National Park and Karnala Bird Sanctuary. And the points of interest are mapped, they are GPS tracked, and these apps can work without internet. Because in forest, there is no internet. So we designed it in such a way. And there is a virtual assistant.
I have to say, you have lured me, Shubha, talking about these apps. I really want to know the names of these apps. Which are these apps that we're talking about?
So it is called e-forest trails.
E-forest trails.
E-for, like, because it is electronic, no? E-forest trails. And HTMP, then e-forest trail Karnala Bird Sanctuary, that is KBS. So these both apps we created. The Karnala Bird Sanctuary app is both for iOS and Android platform. But for the Sanjay Gandhi National Park, I didn't have enough funding. I only made it for Android.
That brings me to my last question. As an individual who is conscious about the fact that we need to change at individual levels as far as climate crises are concerned, especially if I'm a tourist, what is that one call to action that you will give me as an individual, and one call to action which you'll give me as a budding entrepreneur?
So one call to action, whether you're a tourist or as a citizen of India, I would say, is that, why we started having environmental problems? Because we brought in too much of convenience in our life. We stopped carrying our bags. So it's a convenience for me. So if you are concerned about environment, I would say bring back some inconvenience in your life. Can you carry your own bag? Can you segregate your waste? Can you take effort to switch off the lights when it's not? So it's an inconvenience, because we are so much used for, so like going and buying vegetables from malls. Don't buy from malls. Don't plastic coated vegetables. You don't need it. You go and support the local vendors who are actually, so support the local vocal, what you say. So being environment friendly is not an easy job. It's a very difficult one. But I feel if it is followed like a family practice, it becomes a family's value system, that in our family we don't use plastic bags. Even that kind of a value system is been followed by every family, and that pick on any topic, anything. It could be water, it could be waste, it could be anything. And have a habit of going outdoors, exploring, making children explore the nature, because our children are so much gadget freaks. So the reason I created the apps was that the apps will take them outdoors to observe nature. So parents should, so as a family value system, they should do that. Okay, we should have some environmental, like, let's not litter, or let's save water, whatever. So let them pick one mantra. That is one thing which that follows everywhere. If you're traveling, you will do that. Now, like when I travel, we get the small water bottles. I never take the water bottles. Even in conferences, I carry my water bottle. So that kind of inconvenience we should bring
So yeah,
down.
the personal goals are absolutely clear. What about the entrepreneurs?
So for the entrepreneurs, they need to be just, first of all, they should believe in their idea. And their idea should really make an impact. So an entrepreneur should know that whatever they're passionate about, is it sellable idea? You are passionate, doesn't mean it is a sellable. So find out what is a sellable idea where people will find a value in it. That's very important in any solution they find for a problem. And second part is that be very patient. There are no shortcuts in this. I have seen entrepreneurs who started with me. They didn't leave the job. They said we'll start as a sidekick. So when you keep something as a sidekick, and you always, like I say, that you want to learn swimming, but you're just on the edge of the swimming pool and keeping one leg in water and one leg in the ground, you'll never learn swimming. You have to plunge into the water to learn swimming. So if you want to become an entrepreneur, you can't be doing a job.
Especially coming from somebody who's walking the talk, this is inspiring and much needed for enthusiastic people like me to begin somewhere. And I promise that we will. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Lovely talking to you also.
So all fellow travelers who go far and near, travel solo or in groups, explore new places or love being called a regular, we just heard 3 voices, each of whom gave us a lot to think about and a lot that we can do to cool it down and even make it our business. So if it's your passion for travel that drives you, or if it is your love for the environment, the first step is to believe in your idea and convert it into an MVP for the world to see and use. And as travelers, remember to pack a little extra like water bottles, cloth napkins and cutlery so we can say no to single-use products. That's it for this episode of Cool It Down. Let's take that step towards making travel eco-friendly and sustainable and get closer to that destination we all have in common, a better planet. Stay tuned for more climate connections, business ideas and actionable steps we can all take.
Cool it down. Let's make it our business.